further delay, I would like to introduce the speaker for today, Agnes Lan, who is the VP of Sales at Change Connect. Agnes has tons of experience with strategy, design, and implementation of business transformations in various industries with a focus on sales. She has consulted for clients in broadcast and media, advertising and marketing, distribution and warehousing, education, manufacturing, professional services, and construction. She is an absolute expert to lead this session. Agnes, we're so lucky to have you here, and I welcome you to begin.
Hi, thanks so much, Alina, for that warm introduction. How's everyone tonight? Come on, guys. Give me, all righty. That sounds good. We're going to be spending the next 60, 70 minutes together, okay? Whether you like it or not. Well, technically you can sign off. So let's make it a good one so that we can help you along this journey. I am an open book, like I messaged you guys on there. On the chat, I am an open book when it comes to anything sales related. That's kind of my forte. So if you have any questions, connect with me on LinkedIn. Ask Alina through Space how to get a hold of me. The interesting fact here is that I was one of the earlier entrepreneur in resident over at Space Markham. My term is actually over. That's how long I haven't been, how long Whitespace been around and how long I haven't been around. But I still love doing these founders fundamental around sales because I do think it is one of the topic, like Aline says, that will give the entrepreneur the biggest lift in their company. And actually, it's a lot more complex than people expected. When I visit and have conversation with small, mid-sized business, one of the things that bothers me actually the most, two things bother me the most. Number one, when I ask them, who is it that you're selling to? And if they tell me everybody, I know there's a problem. Number two is if I ask them around sales and what is their strategy and plan, and it seems they're like, well, I just built it, they will come. That also isn't going to fly. So I want to make sure that you guys know, as you guys start your entrepreneurship journey, that sales is a proactive thing. It always is a proactive thing. It'll always be a proactive thing, even if it is referral based. So I want to make sure that we come up with a proactive plan by the end of the night. Sure enough. Now, before I get into the slide, because I'm an engineer by trade, I can get very squared and I can just go on with my slides and tell you all the information from there. Is there anything in particular that you want me to address tonight? Leave it in the chat. I'll be able to scroll through that and be able to add some of those content. I'll be able to add some of those content as well to help you guys sort of make the content tonight relevant. All right. Okay, very good. Automation. Anthony mentioned CDAP as a grant on the, there's actually CDAP have two sides. There is the one that Anthony talked about, which is the online digital technology side. There's actually also the other side around technology efficiency. It's another grant, but that is something that you can also ask Anthony about. Supply chain contracts, okay, very good. And just contracts in general. I would imagine you are talking about B2B business and probably government bid contracts. Are you thinking about, or open bid contracts? How to price is a good one. How to price is a module on its own, I believe, Alina. So I think you have to go to that class instead. But how to price is very interesting. And I can glean on that in a little bit, because a lot of times when we first start a business, we undervalue our product. And I'm okay with you guys putting a discount on the product because you haven't had the brand name to back up the market price, but I don't want you to price it wrong. What I mean by price it wrong is you guys know that model on water. How much is a water worth? Well, I can go to a supermarket and buy water for $1, right? Or I can go to I'm driving, I'm in a gas station, my water is now $3.29. But in the middle of the desert, even if it's $100, I still have to pay, right? So you have to understand your value in the situation, in the market that you're serving, how much that water is. So if there's no one else in the world that can tell you your water is worth $3, because what are they benchmarking to, right? You have to benchmark it to where you play. Make sense? Okay. I just before I came online right now, I'm coaching a client out in Nanaimo, and they do EV electric plugs, I guess, installations, and out there they're charging $3,000, and because I was curious, and I know in Toronto the price is not $3,000, but when in Nanaimo there's only 4 electrician companies, then you can charge whatever you want, right? So that is something worth consideration. So far, so good. Okay, I got 0 versus 9. All right, I got you. Excellent. Let's go. Keep dropping them in. Alina, if you see anything interesting, let me know, okay?
Yes, will do.
All right. First things first. So when I was approached to do this today's session, one of the things I got asked was the idea that, well, Agnes, a lot of the entrepreneurs here in this class are still new, right? Still pretty new in their business. How do you win the first 5 customer was what I was told to ask, to I guess, share. So I'm gonna go around the first 5, but some of these best practice don't change, but just to get you to 50 or 500 customers. Okay, so today's agenda number 1, the idea of gauging your sales process. So you'll find that I'm all about proactive sales. You can make $1 million by selling a bunch of $10 things. You can get $1 million by selling a bunch of $1,000 things, or $10,000 thing, or $1 million thing, right? You can get to $1 million however way you need to, but you need to understand your numbers. First things first. Number 2 is identifying your customer or your prospects. Remember I told you my number 1 pet peeve when I coach anybody is, well, who's your client? Everybody. Well, okay, that's not going to fly, because I can tell you, even if I'm selling, let's say if I'm selling, lately I'm really in this particular fidget toy. So this fidget toy can be played by my son, who's 13, and can be played by my mother-in-law, who's 72. Okay, and played by me, who we may not tell you how old I am, but it's Sarah's laughing because so the thing is, when I put this online, right, I can put this online to sell. If I aim for this to be something that my son play, I would advertise it a particular way, right? My ad would look a particular way. My go-to-market strategy, the word I use, would be a particular way to make sure that this is pleasing to a 13-year-old boy. Versus if I'm selling to a 40-year-old lady, right, or 40-something-year-old lady, then this would look completely different, and the usage of this thing would be completely different to attract that 40-year-old, and likewise the 70-year-old. Okay, so you can't tell me this is for everybody, because your go-to-market strategy, the way that you go about marketing and selling this product, in the cost associated to selling this product, significantly increase if you don't know who you're selling to. Okay, and that's why we talk about who is it that you're trying to sell to, because that drives efficiency in your sales and marketing process if you know who is it that it is. Number 3 is active listening. I can't stress enough about active listening. No one is going to buy what you want to sell them. They want to know that you're there to address their problem. And if you don't listen to them enough, no one's going to believe that you know what is their problem. If you don't believe that you know what is their problem, then no one's going to buy what you try to pitch, because it's not the right solution for them. So we actually ran a poll last week, actually, on our LinkedIn profile. And we asked, do you care? Although I believe that it should be a balance of both. But our marketing team says, do you believe that trust goes further or product knowledge goes further? And 100% of the people, as far as I checked on the weekend, replied that they care, that they trust that salesperson more than they care about the person knowing everything about that product. Okay? Because the trust comes with problem solving, comes with the fact that you have your client's interest at heart and they believe that you have their client interest back in heart. And everything starts with listening. Module number 4 talks about asking the right question. Now, you listen, great, but it can go every which way if a client's leading you. So you want to be asking the right question in order for you to be leading the conversation in a way that makes sense, in the way that you want the conversation to go. But how do you go about doing that while building trust? Module number 5 today is around approaching your next customer. So who would that be once it's identified? And how would you go about doing that? Section number 6 is going to be my short one. We do a lot of CDAP lately at Change Connect. So I'm going to talk to you a lot about the fact that the tech space right now is quite robust to help you be more effective in your sales journey. So we were going through a transformation with the client where one of their rep with their old tech can only handle 40 active client in the pipeline at once. Once we rebuilt their sales stack, they were able to have 1 to 100 active client at once. Think about that from an efficiency of labor perspective. And the ability to do sales with good sales tech allows you to be able to manage those 100 clients instead of 40 with the same level of personalization, allowing the closing ratio not to drop. Okay, that's where the technology and the scalability comes in sales tech nowadays. Is that the agenda that you were hoping to hear when you sign up for 75 minutes with me today? All righty. Great. Let's start off with section number 1. We'll talk about gauging your sales. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Okay. Hands up would be great. I guess my first question to you guys is, in your mind, is your sales process repeatable? Right? In the sales language, we call it scalable. But like let's say I always, when you know that let's start with marketing effort. If you're running Google Ads, okay, nothing sophisticated. You've hired a marketer to run your Google Ads. You're spending $3,000 to get 200 leads in every month. Okay, a repeatable process means I give them $6,000 and I'll get 400 leads in. If I give them $6,000 and they're still giving me 200 leads, that means whatever process that my marketer is running is not a scalable process. So far, so good. Now, same thing in sales. I'll ask you a few questions. Number 1, if your sales process is repeatable, you should be able to answer these questions for me. Number 1 is, what is your sales pipeline conversion ratio? Do you know what it is? Like for me, I know very well what is my conversion ratio. I actually know what is my conversion ratio by product lines that we offer, because every product line actually have a different closing ratio. Right? I actually also have stats enough to know closing ratio by different salesperson here. Okay, so number 1, do you know your sales pipeline ratio? Number 2 is, in the last 7 days, how many prospects have you generated into your pipeline? The shitty part is, if you tell me, last week I had a great week, I had 5. And then I ask you, what the week before? Well, the week before, I had nothing. Well, how about the week before that? Well, the week before that, I was on vacation. I had nothing that week either. Well, how about the week before that? Well, the week before that, I was pretty good. I had a really good week. I had 7. That means what I'm seeing here is it's not scalable either, right? If I'm on vacation, I'll either make up that however many leads I want before or after my vacation, but overall, my month-to-month ratio would be the same. So far, so good. Next, how many of those prospects are considered highly qualified? This is where efficiency comes in. So interestingly enough, I'll share with you guys even internally. Internally, we have 2 cold callers. I have one particular cold caller where she can make, let's say, 23 calls and she'll bring in 3 leads. It's not good, it's not bad, it's okay. But leads that she brings in to me personally, I can close them at 90%. When she sells them really good. I have another cold caller. She actually is able to bring in 6 leads to me for every 10 calls. She is aggressive on the phone. But with her lead, I can only close 30%. So me being the constant, right? I know the legwork in the front, in the cold caller side, something must be different. Fair enough? So now what I'm trying to tell you here is one already have done a marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads analysis and giving me only sales qualified leads versus the other one is just focused on getting me appointments. I need them both. That's why they're both employed. Different. You don't want them to all sound the same way either. But you should know what those numbers are and what you should expect. Last but not least, how many deals are you expecting to close in the next 7 days, 15 days, 30 days, 60 days? For some of you, it might be 120 days, 365 days. Okay. But do you know what those numbers are? Now, to those 4 questions, I'm going to get you guys to put up your hand. How many of you guys, after understanding what I'm asking in terms of is your sales process repeatable, would you say that your process is repeatable? Hands up if you think your process is repeatable. 1. 1. Okay, good. That's why you're here. Fantastic. But let's get through and some food for thought. This particular slide is worth taking a screenshot because if you don't know the numbers, it should be something food for thought for tomorrow. Okay, something for you to think about. How, I guess it's right. I don't have these numbers. Okay, how can I get to these numbers? So my takeaway number 1 for tonight is sales should not be ad hoc. It should be repeatable and a measurable process. Okay, there are even for me, I know for sure, even through cyclical cycle, I close more deals during September, October, and November than any other month of the year. It's our busiest month at Change Connect, and that's year after year. I close the least amount of deal in the month of August and December, but that's okay. That once you understand the stats, you'll be able to work those into the regular measurable metrics for the rest of the year as well. Cool? Now, module number 2, let's talk a little bit about your customer and customer profile and prospects. All right, I'm going to get some of you guys to unmute. Anybody can someone come and tell me about your business and who do you think is your ideal customer profile? I know it's late, guys. I know everyone had a long day. Anyone want to share?
Randomly pick somebody?
Sure, why not?
Okay. All right. Let's see. Catherine, would you want to share?
Sure. I have current business is. Thank you, Alina, for choosing me, and thank you, Andrews, for your business consulting strategy. I mean, I have never thought about sales can be scalable and measurable process, but my first business consulting, my focus is only focused on the small business or target to one set of business for finance that using Microsoft as their backend process, its technology part. So I use LinkedIn as the sales channel. I constantly get people contacting me, so that leads to my potential client. So I'm very narrow on the consulting portion of that. So I want to focus on business or small business or organization or government that who doing any Microsoft kind of related platform, like a auto platform. I have a second business that going on for the future business is I'm looking for looking after senior cares, which is small design, not like exactly like a senior home sort of. I prefer to have a small family union that share with the 5 to 6 senior that can live together, and that's my next project. That's the reason I'm joining this whole white space. I'm looking for a mentor. I'm looking for clientele. I'm also looking for partners as well. So
Okay,
that's my stage.
that
Sorry.
is great. Let's break down your second business in a little
Okay.
bit. Help you break it down as a group, okay?
Yep.
You okay with that? Okay, so now let's talk about, are you providing, let's say, tell me a little bit about the business again. You want the 6 seniors to be in a group together for what purpose?
So they can share the rent. Also, they're not in a cohort with many seniors, like what happened in the past 4 years. People gets really infected, and then not enough person to look after, or the health situation, or the nutrition situation. So I want to make sure that they're living in a one small, like a not bigger residential area, but small unit, like so it's 6 people that are in the one shared space. And I'm looking for other partnership would be the registered nurse, registered nutrients that they can actually provide through my platform. So provide that connections to it, and that's the current setup. Yeah,
Okay.
and the reason I can approach this because I have the facility. I'm actually building this because I was checking with government and bill 56 bills, which allows you to actually build this kind of facilities or kind of a rental area. You can rent to people who actually needs that facilities or renting area, and then by sharing that, they can looking together to have somebody look after them in a way, in a small boutique way, and
Okay.
easy to scale. So
Perfect.
that's it.
So now let's break down that for you. Let's not talk about the nurses for a second, okay?
Nope,
Nurses
nope,
can be
yep.
a hiring thing. So let's talk about your customer profile around the seniors. Tell me, where can you find these seniors gathered together?
I have actually looking through your Klaus Incorporate all the data stuff I did about 6 months ago. I find why I like to tap into it because I realized there's many senior groups in our region, York region, that has around 196,000 that in that year group, 65 year age group, and there's not enough rental or affordable rental catering to them. So total York House region only have a 4,300 be able to rent it out. So there's a big gap there, and that's the one statistic I'm stepping into it. I'm
Yeah.
also looking into for the reason I can't look into it because I have been facing this myself. I have a couple of seniors that facing the same situation. They can't even on a waiting list, not even a 7 years waiting list. So I have a land I can build. So that's what we did for this year. We would build another 5 first to start up, and because the seniors they're all gathering together, so I have this narrow pipe. So once they're piping into it, they talk to the communities and they will know it. And then they will start to like there's kind of mouse to mouse kind of thing. I'm not really
Yeah.
broadcasting it because I have a yeah.
Yeah.
We're in a small community group. That's my first step.
Okay, perfect. So just things to consider. I think because you're in the senior home and in a way senior roommate situation,
Mhm.
depending on which community you are chasing after, it shouldn't be a huge problem. Senior housing is a problem altogether. So it's not like they can be very picky, and it's not as if there is lots of supply, and so a big part of it is to your favor around the condition of where you are. But one thing, if we were to pick an area that's a little bit more competitive, you gotta also think about who is the decision maker. So in this case, is the senior the decision maker, or is the senior's children the decision maker? because as you think about the influencers of the decision, you might want to think about how to approach your brand a little differently, right? Is your brand around, like you mentioned, around the nurses? That's great, because I know the children would care about the nurses, but I know my mother, I know my mother-in-law, they care about the social aspect of living in the living space, less about the nursing aspect of the living space. They think that's just take it for granted. So as you look at the situation and who you're trying to attract to sign off on the monthly bill, you want to make sure that you address those various decision makers and decision influencers. And you also have to think about, too, going back to ideal customer profile, you have to think, right? You have to think about a few things. Who do you want to attract as your seniors, right? Is there a particular type of seniors that it might not sound very politically correct, but is there a particular seniors where it costs you more to service, right? Versus cost you less to service? That will break into your, that will actually ultimately contribute to your bottom line. So which kind of seniors do you want to attract? And who does it make sense for your center to attract? Because keeping in mind, these people are looking for roommates. So if you have a couple of bad eggs in there, people will stop coming because they don't want a room with so and so. And like, I know in the nursing homes and the OH homes, they also talk about floors. They also talk about floor activities, because exactly what they're trying to create is these cohorts of people that care for the same value, allowing them to feel the social aspect of being in a cohort space. All
right.
things to consider.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're living close to the lake area. I think so from, I guess, just from one or two person start points, and they can find, once they decided, they will find their partners, and that will easily fulfill 4 to 6 units easily there. So because we're in the lake area, so most people I'm talking to is really narrow to the who would like to live in the lake area, like who like to build this like those boat house or club, that kind of thing. So they are active, they're pretty open active. So that's my starting point. And
Perfect.
I'm not looking to broad everybody, but I mean in the future, yes, this is going to be engaged for probably for everybody in the future. But you have to, as you said, you have to choose particular catering to different kind of taste and different activity and different social group, because they have different uh, preference, right? So this is not like a one fits all kind of scenario. So you probably need a lot of people to involve with it, including government, including nursing area, nutritions, or Pilates, anything that can bring this together as the future. You can build this for 20 years. It's a long time runway that you can actually work through it. So any point you start, it will be fine.
Just be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Very brave of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
so let me tell you a little bit about why ideal customer profile it can get very interesting in your business planning. So for example, I'll share a little bit about Change Connect. So Change Connect is a sales and strategy boutique management consulting firm. That's what we focus on, sales and strategy. And efficient, because we do strategy, we do efficiency, and sometimes we do tech consulting because tech helps with business being more efficient. So it's all encompassing there. But a couple of our value proposition lies with the fact that we work with small, mid-sized businesses. And you might ask, well, why small, mid-sized businesses, Agnes? Wouldn't it make sense for you to be consulting with the big companies? And the truth of the matter is we've actually consulted for, companies that you and I buy from every day, that are pretty big. But at the end of the day, we found here is our unique niche in the value proposition, in the value chain of where we are. The big firms, your Deloitte and the Accenture of the world, will get the contracts from the Rogers and the Bells of the world. Okay, it's very natural. But they actually don't come they don't come down market very much into the small, mid-sized business space because there's no meat in it for them. Their overhead is too big. So, but there's definitely meat in it for us if we service that small, mid-sized business space because our overhead is less. So when you think about it, I'm on purposely, strategically not chasing after stuff that everyone's chasing after. I'm chasing after things that I know is within our control. And also it's a space that our consultants like to play in because people are more genuine. In general, there's less politics and we can get the things done faster and change happening more quickly. So it's very rewarding. So when you think about it, then we further actually also combine the fact that we do a lot of the reason why I know about the grant that Anthony was talking about is we do a lot of grant work for the government. So whatever grant, let's say the training grants, let's say CDAP, let's say Can Export, a lot of our clients use government money to hire us. So we on purposely also make it actually extra attention to companies that have less than 100 employees, because the Canadian government is very generous to small, mid-sized businesses trying to grow with less than 100 employees. So our business strategy all of a sudden hone in on where we do well and further hone in on where the money is. And hence our strategy is around servicing company that is just less than 100 employees. They're big enough to want to hire consulting for efficiency and strategy and really have a process in place, but they're not where the Deloitte wants to play. Okay, leaving us with a very nice, meaty customer profile to play with. Make sense? So if you can't tell me to that level of sophistication who you're chasing after, then I need you to go back and think about who you're chasing after once more, because it would mean that you are not like you are trying to throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. And not saying that won't close deal. It just means that you need to 10 times the effort in order for you to close deals. Maybe 5 times, but definitely more times. Because my cold callers, I know exactly where to go to Zoom Info to pull a list for them to call. And then I know exactly what is the conversion ratio based on the people that I expect of them. Okay. And then that's when I know, okay, I get them to do more work, I get more leads. Oh, this month, like September, October, November, crazy busy. I don't need them to want to work in this area. I'm going to deploy them in other areas. I want them to do more blogs. I want them to do more brand awareness campaigns rather than call to action campaigns. Okay. Now, creating the ideal customer profile. So example here, I said, a small business, less than 10 employees, and a marketing manager at a company up to 1,000 employees. You got to know who you're chasing after. Before COVID, now we ran a campaign with a particular company that needed to address marketing manager actually as a decision maker. And we've actually laid out the avatar to the marketing director that they're trying to chase after. They have 2 types of marketing directors in that kind of company they're chasing after. Number 1 is a marketing director that's about 42 years old, male, live in Oakville, 2 children in hockey. They travel in from Oakville into the center of Toronto on the GO train every day. That's one avatar. The other avatar is 28-year-old, still the director of marketing, live on Kane Street, really enjoying life, go downstairs to eat dinner every day, and that living the downtown life. Both marketing directors, but if you think about how do you address and attract the attention of each of those, they're very different. So you got to know how to do so. And I can tell you, at the end of the day, we actually ran a campaign on, believe it or not, just before COVID. So it's not like ancient dinosaur days. We ran a campaign on the Metro newspaper for people to grab the newspaper on the way in from the GO train. I don't even think Metro exists anymore. But thank you, Sarah. So that's why when you come through, right, you know that it's very targeted toward exactly the avatar, because I know every cent that I put into marketing is going to be put into work for me. Okay. Now, so By the same token, I'm asking you, who are your customer? So you need to leverage your data. Who are your most profitable customer, right? Back to what I was telling Catherine, right? There are people that you're going to service that are going to make life a lot easier for you. And then there are people that you're going to service, still pay the same rent, that's going to be a lot tougher to service, right? So you got to know who are those profitable customer and profile types are. And the other thing, I was doing another coaching exercise up at Space Georgina yesterday, and we were talking about your providing feedback. You have your network of either customer, prospect, people that may love and trust you. Go talk to people. If you don't go talk to people to solidify your understanding, everything then is in your head. As a matter of fact, I would go out and solicit people that is giving me challenges rather than that's a great idea. That's a great idea. If everyone tells you that's a great idea, that's actually how you sink more money into a bad idea. You want to make sure you get a broad spectrum of feedback, allowing you to understand a broad spectrum of problems that could arise. Actually, I was doing a course a couple of weeks ago, and one of the biggest takeaway is before, I would imagine many of you guys heard of the idea of postmortem, right? After a project, what happened? We want to revisit what it went wrong so that next time it can be better. So right now, the hottest thing in Silicon Valley right now is something called the pre-mortem. So let's say you were to go into, I don't care if you're going into a $500,000 contract or whether you're onboarding a new employee. Have a few people sit down that will be engaging this employee and said, 6 months from now, if shit was to hit the fan, why and how could we prevent it? Then the 3 people will have different ideas. I want everyone to come together to a pre-mortem and talk about everything that could go wrong in 6 months' time. Because now I can really design a good onboarding process. I can really design a good go-to-market strategy, because now I feel like we have had a solid plan rather than just planning around a happy path. So far, so good? All right. The other thing you got to understand is, what is your average customer lifespan? I truly don't believe a customer is a customer for life anymore, no matter how well you service them. Okay, the national average of business turning over used to be 87%, 17% attrition, regardless of how well you service them. Now that national average is closer to 34% that people will leave regardless. So when you're thinking about banking a customer for life, please don't. That's not a good bet. But because you don't have that customer for life, and I'm not telling you to not do customer service, you still do good customer service, but you're really thinking about, okay, if my attrition rate is going to be at 34% now, what am I doing in the front of the pipe to make sure that I am making up that 34%? Because keeping in mind, everyone thinks about growth. I want 20% growth next year. I want the growth next year. So now, not only are you talking about growth of the 20% you want, you're also making up the 30% you plan to lose. So you're making up 50 some odd percent in order for you to hit the 20% increase that you're looking for. So now it's the end of 2023, everyone should be working on their 2024 plan. That's what you're thinking about in order for you to achieve your goals. Agnes is nothing but bad news, right? Today. I'm just trying to buy some insurance. Okay, and of course, last but not least, I always tell my clients there's many ways to earn a living. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. So you get to choose to be an entrepreneur. So because you choose to be an entrepreneur, you choose to work with the people you want to work with. So who is it that you want to work with becomes very important in the equation. Okay. Now, The other thing more, I am a numbers girl, so I'm going to get into some numbers. The other thing you got to really understand is identifying your best customer based on some sort of measure. So you're thinking about your highest ACV or TCV, which is your annual contract value versus your total contract value. For the year, you're also considering your higher retention score clients, the most relevant customers, because most relevant customer tends to give you the most referrals. As well, highest CLV. CLV is very important, your customer lifetime value. I know the customer lifetime value here is about 3 to 4 years. Client that love and trust us buys us 3 or 4 years around sales training. And then after that, they're like, oh, you know what, Agnes, I'm going to go with another trainer. And by then I'm like, you know what, great, get another flavor, right? So there's got to be some sort of an understanding of what that lifetime value of a customer is. And then, of course, do you have an active referral or advocacy plan, right? Yes, people love and trust you and love your work, and they will advocate for you or they will refer you. I get it. But did you know the stats around that is that 91% of the people would refer you more if you ask? So the stats around that is that people don't ask for referrals. They don't ask. So one of the first things that I always tell the people that go to our sales training is ask, because ask just heighten your chance by 91%. Because a lot of times being Canadian, you don't want to be in people's face, and that is not working for you. Don't forget, they're working their business. They're not working your business. So even if they love and trust you, they still don't refer you because you're not top of mind, not because they don't want to. So now, in order for you to want to get them to want to, you just have to be in their face a little bit more. Hey, you know what? I really need that extra piece of business. Can you help? Right? We're down this month. Oh, we're up this month, right? Next, a little bit more about customer profile. So remember I talked to you a little bit about my Oakville market manager and also my downtown marketing manager. What I end up doing there is looking at all the marketing manager that they obviously there's more avatar than 2, but those became the dominant avatar. So what we did there was really looking at history of who they work with and the decision makers they have, and then segment them into avatars. And based on those particular avatar, we found commonality around their background, their location, geographic, personality challenges, objection, purchase process, and industry and title. And based on that, we want to chase after more customer of that same type with marketing campaigns. So my takeaway number 2 for module number 2 is the greater level of detail you can peg your customer avatar or a customer profile, the higher potential it is for you to derive value from them. Okay? A lot of times people say, okay, everyone's my client is probably the best. No, it actually isn't. Because everybody's your client means nobody's your client in your campaign. It means you're not drawing relevance when you speak to people. So if you're able to hone in, own a particular market, generally is better. Then you can work on another market, then you can work on another market, right? There is, that will just keep you more focused, especially for small, mid-sized businesses. Next is active listening. I can't stress enough about active listening, not just in your sales job, also in your relationship with your employee, but also relationship with your significant others and children. Sometimes if you don't actively listen, you are just on the wrong track because today you had a bad day. You're going to come at a conversation very differently than if another day when you had a good day. Okay? But active listening to the other person have nothing to do with the fact that you had a good day or a bad day, or your experience with someone like them before. Have everything to do with them, not you. So it is very important for you to understand, with the intent to understand where they are coming from. Okay? When you're asking questions, when you're building trust, no one builds trust on script, right? People build trust because they felt like that you listen. And when you listen, you're looking for language, you're looking for tonality, you're looking for facial expression, you're looking to see if someone's crossing their arm, playing with their phone. You understand active listening comes from the fact that people pay attention both ways. Okay? Now, you want to, this is actually pretty interesting that I grabbed, so I'm going to read that to you. The understanding that the key isn't even that you understand. The key is that the prospect understand that you understand. Okay? You understand is not enough. So the key here is, do they know you understand? And also, after that, you want to confirm that you understand. So you want to rephrase what your prospects are saying, right? Asking you if you understood. So create an open for them to ask for honest feedback. So did I communicate that effectively? Do you believe I understand what you're trying to share with me? If the answer is no, could you clarify for me? What did I miss? If they're on the same page, then we're good. Okay, so there's gotta be enough language. Like sometimes when I run sessions too, at the end, you see, I'll ask you guys, what is your biggest takeaway today? Based on that day's takeaway, I'll know, and what is your biggest takeaway? What are you taking with you to implement after you spend 75 minutes with me? And that's a good feedback for me, because I'm not here to run your business, but I am here to make sure that the last 75 minutes that you spend with me is time well spent. Okay, for you and for me. So what does that look like in terms of how you are going to take advice? And if I have people sort of repeating what the next person says and then repeating what the next person said, then I know people weren't paying attention that day. It means my content that day was dry, right? But if, someone's like, yeah, I'm really excited about that sales calculator you showed me. I'm going to try to replicate that at home. And then I have another guy that said, okay, I'm going to implement HubSpot because you said it's free and it's going to organize my sales channel. Okay, then I know that people were paying attention and find value in the chat that day. So long and short story of it is, your signal of understanding, it may not be, hey, do you understand? Hey, can you repeat that? Right? It could come in many shape or form depending on how you go and talk to your customer, and vice versa. And obviously ask follow-up questions. The more open-ended, the better, because open-ended questions allow it to go into off on a tangent. And sometimes I love tangents because there's a reason why people go off on a tangent. And that always gets you to understand your customer's motive better and why they come to you. So a lot of times, talk to them about their goals and challenge and their current plan and why they're frustrated. I always have the client now. We do a lot of CDAP at the moment. I ask the client, hey, where is your process clunky, right? Where is it not working for you? Where are you most frustrated? Then they'll tell me, what is frustrated. And then I'll segment it. Okay, is that issue, is he frustrated because of a tech issue? Is he frustrated because of process issue? Or is he frustrated because of people issue? Then I'm able to sort of bucket them accordingly so that I can come back with suggestion that makes sense. And or at least recite, okay, I think I'm hearing that you have a change management problem. Last time you implemented technology, no one implemented, and then you kind of gave up. Is that what you're trying to say? Then they'll tell you yes or no. No. My people are very good. I think I didn't give them enough training. Oh, so you didn't give them enough training. I get it. Okay, so open dialogue definitely will allow you to have that conversation. So you want to make sure that my third takeaway today is make sure you understand what you have conveyed it, and more importantly, that they know that you understand what they have conveyed it. I'm going a little slower than expected, so I'm going to go a little quicker in the bottom half. So module number 4 is around asking the right questions. So piggybacking on what I last said around poking, you always want to make sure that you ask good questions. Good questions allow you to build rapport with the client. Good questions allow you to understand the situation. It allows them to understand that you understand the situation. So what makes a good question? Something like, your uncertain response. You want to invite them to elaborate. You want to probe. You want to show that you're neutral. That's very important. You want to show, you don't want a solution and be biased too early. You always want to begin with the W's before the H's. Okay? So that's very important, getting your facts right. If you don't have the facts right, you can't get anything right, because then you're building, it's like a house of cards, right? And like dominoes, if you built it on shaky grounds, it's never going to take off. So you want to make sure you have your W's appropriately. And then you want to promote dialogue. Promoting dialogue, it's very interesting. I always give my consultants a metric in the first meeting, because we start everything with an assessment of where people's situation is today. So I always say, okay, one metric that I care about is I need to know what is your talk time. Because if your talk time is more than 30%, we have not done our job properly. Because in the assessment session, your client has to be talking 70%, you have to be talking less than 30%. If my consultant come back and tell me they've been talking, it's a 50-50 talk time, they know that evaluation for that session is probably going to be very bad. Because like a domino effect, if you talk so much, you're not going to get your objective appropriately done. Line of question, open-ended questions. You want to gauge your prospect's interest as they answer your question. Earlier on, ask how they evaluate new products and service. You want to ask about their budget, and you want to close and establish a follow-up step. This is very key to having your first session, okay? And if in your session, I can also tell you, in the first session, if they talk 70% of the time and you talk 30% of the time, and you have a next meeting, I can guarantee your closing ratio just went up by 10%. Okay? Because you just have to think about this, right? No one's out there sharing their life story with just any strangers. If they're willing to share their biggest pain point with you over someone else, that means they have let you into their problem. If they've let you into their problem, then you have a way to solve their problem. But if you talk 70% of the time and they talk 30% of the time, I actually cannot guarantee that they have let you into their problem. If they cannot let you into a problem, I'm not sure you bought yourself another 30 minutes. I always think about each of my session with my prospect as, did I perform the way that I need to perform in order for me to buy another 30 minutes? And then if I perform the way they expect me to perform, my 30 minutes just bought me another 30 minutes. Then next 30 minutes, buy me another 30 minutes. Okay. Don't tell me that, oh, this 30, man, I didn't do anything because I didn't close. I didn't tell them enough for them to close. You got to understand there is an advancement criteria or success factor for each hour or each 30 minutes that you engage with the person that you're talking to. Okay. And not every time you meet with a customer is a closing call. And as a matter of fact, it really shouldn't be, because if you can bucket your service into 30-minute chat where you talk 70%, they talk 30%, something isn't right here. And guarantee you this is not repeatable. And if it is repeatable, you have to hit 1,000 people on these calls rather than 100 people on these calls and achieve better closing ratio. Make sense? Okay. So the key there for you guys also is establish, I just told you, for our firm, 70% talk time of the client, 30% of our own talk time. If you don't pass that, you fail that meeting. Not as easy as that, right? Because you just contradicted your conversion ratio. So you guys, and everyone's number is going to be different. Everyone's gauge is going to be different. So you got to figure out, when you're doing sales planning, what is that talk time number? It's actually very interesting. I'll tell you another very interesting stats that I found out last year that I talk about all the time now. Do you know that if your customer, for whatever reason, swears in a sales call, and if right after they swear, you drop an F-bomb as well, your closing ratio actually will increase by 8%. It's very interesting because, and when I break that down into science, it makes sense, because people buy from people that they are like or like. So if they swear and you swear, because they feel like they let the guard down, right? Because no one swears, hopefully no one swears like out of nowhere. They feel like they let their guard down. So they feel like, okay, well, this person also let their guard down. Okay, now we're friends. Let's do business. There's actually scientific proof around that. Don't laugh, ladies. So periodically, I actually also drop some F-bomb periodically now too, strategically, when I see it work. So, because I'm a math girl, so I am not going to defy against math and research. Okay. Next, here's just some questions around what open-ended question means. I think you guys know what open-ended question is. But can I ask you more questions? Can you tell me more about this? Oh, this is interesting. Elaborate a little bit on what happened there on that deal, right? Why did you choose this niche? Tell me a little bit about your goal in the next however many months. Drill into certain goals. Okay. I'm supposed to do a role-playing exercise, but I'm not going to have enough time. Takeaway here for this section is ask specific questions to gain specific answer you want. So not only are you asking open questions, you're asking intelligent open questions because you want them to lead to you at the end of the day, right? You're not there to give free consulting services forever. You're not there to, one of the saying I tell my prospects, as you can tell, I'm very straightforward. I'll tell them, guys, we will be friends regardless, okay? But I need to know if there's a deal on the table because I can talk to you all day about I have one prospect that's talking to me about his son being in rep basketball right now. I can talk to you about your son being in rep basketball all you want on our private time. But during business hour, I need to understand if there's a deal on the table. If not, I can park you in my friend zone, right? I'm not chasing after a deal every time I talk to you. And that's okay. I enjoy talking to you. You're a nice person, right? But I need to know to close this deal in my pipeline. And then I had to put a new deal in my pipeline to make up the number. I'm just being realistic, right? And they'll tell you whether there's a deal on the table or not, right? So sometimes don't shy away from having those conversations, but do ask for very specific questions leading down the path of where you want the conversation to go. Otherwise, it can get very long. And sometimes the sales journey can be a lot shortened because if you look at the lever of sales, there are 4 levers of sales. One of the levers of sales is closing and shortening your time to closing. And the reason for that is because if you shorten your time, you can put in a lot more deals in your pipeline because you only have 24 hours in a day. So if you are able to manage it and have targeted conversation and lead to a shorter time to close, then you can theoretically, by number, you can bring in a lot more deals in the pipe than people that drags a deal on for 18 months and it doesn't really go anywhere. Next is your approach. Next is your approaching for your next customer. So how do you go and target your next customer? So for sure, so who you should target next and know which current customer is your happiest. So you want to be able to win those referrals. First and foremost, it's going to be working with people that would give you referrals, okay? And understanding, I just told you, referral is a proactive thing, not a reactive thing. So identify who your advocates are that love and trust you. And if you don't have your first customer yet, who love and trust you in your family that has your back, okay? Christmas is coming. If they don't know, one of the questions that one of our staff always ask our groups is, does your family, can your family talk about your business like you talk about your business? If your family doesn't even know what you do, the people that love you don't even know what you do, then there is an issue, isn't it? Okay. So identify who those advocates are. You want to be able to follow up with those promoters, right? Here we call it connectors. I think some other companies call it influencers. So you want to know who your generally 5 people are busy, 5 influencers are that give you lead, and likewise you give them leads as well, right? And I always say these promoters of yours, it takes time to grow that relationship. So like know that who the 5 are, and then if it's not working out, like I said, hey, love talking to you, friend zone. I'm gonna switch in another promoter in there so that I know who I'm constantly getting referral business to, and likewise, who's top of my list when I give referral as well. And then you want to make sure that you use the promoter's feedback for referral and testimonials on your website. Talking to an electrician now, and then I'm also talking to you guys, and he was telling me, oh, I have a lot of business coming through the door, because there's only 4 companies over there. So if you think about it, one of the things that's interesting, he was telling me is, I have a really crappy website. I'm like, okay. He's like, but I don't really need it for sales. I'm like, wow, yo, hold on a second, right? Your website is more than attracting sales. Your website is also your brand image. It's also who you are. If your referral, people that are referring you, that's where they're going to go to solidify that this company is credible. So if you have he says that he have a 2005 website, well, that's going to be a problem, because God knows what happened in 2005, like what design was like in 2005. So is that still, to the 2023 eyes, credible? Or do you look like a dinosaur? So you want to make sure that your brand image is kept up, and that your referrals are working for you. The other thing is called NPS score. Anyone know what NPS score is? Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is interesting. Net Promoter Score only asks one question. So some people have now swayed away from Net Promoter Score, but 5 years ago it was very effective because it only asks you one question. People don't like to spend too much time, to be fair, answering customer satisfaction surveys. So they've come up with Net Promoter Score, and the only question they ask is, how likely is it that you would recommend this our company to your friends and family? 1 to 10. And then they'll say that if you're top of the list, I think 9 or 10, you're a promoter, neutral, and then you have detractors. Detractor actually starts at 7. So if you think about this, they want to understand, and based on that is, okay, because referral is all encompassing, right? Referrals not only means they like your service. People that refer also put their brand, put their reputation, put their friendship on the line for you. Like, when was the last time you refer someone to a restaurant that you don't love? You don't, right? Because you're like, well, what if I tell them that I like this and then they don't end up liking it? And they're like, oh, what's wrong with Agnes? Why do they like this? So it's very complex, the whole referral relationship. So you want to make sure that you do ask for it, you do good work. I always say you can't get referral if you don't do good work, but you do good work and you ask and you work with them on a referral program. And be top of mind. So survey aren't enough. Keep the positive momentum. You want to make sure you follow up with those potential advocates to ensure that they always advocating for you. And you want to leverage your feedback. Okay. I always say feedback is actually good. I don't, one thing I talk to my son all the time, don't shy away from negative feedback. Feedback is always a good thing, because I tell him, if I give up on you, you would be sure you won't hear a peep from me. So the fact that I care about you is the only reason I'm giving you feedback. So in this case as well, if your customer is willing to give you feedback for further improvement, it means they still think you have hope. So take those and be able to run with it to make your company better. So my 5th takeaway is, similar to identifying your best customer, you want to make sure that you have measures for success around those that you identify as your top advocates as well. Last but not least, your tech stack. I'm going to leave that one. There's a lot of tech right now in the tech field around follow-up. Like, so if you understand this is particular avatar you're chasing after, you can actually sequence like 7 emails that goes out to them that sounds very personalized, that draws their attention until they reply. There is workflow that allows you to do that. There are data that you can segment to understand where the customers are similar, where the customers are different, where are the buying behavior. And based on the fact that they came to your website, they also called you, they also emailed you 3 times, they have an engagement score of 89. And based on 89, your next step should be this. So sales tech right now actually allows you to do a lot of that. So it's very interesting right now, but you just have to embrace the fact that these technology allows you to do that instead of stay away from it. But I have to say though, tech right now, especially sales tech, is not cheap. So you gotta look at each tech and realize there's an ROI. So if you are able to justify, I always say it's like going to the gym. Like paying for monthly gym membership is not going to make you a healthy person. Going to the gym is going to make you a healthier person. So when you subscribe for these tech, make sure you're not subscribing for the sake of subscribing. Make sure you use every functionality of it to make it the best possible for you to grow your business. And now with that, lo and behold, like I told you before, I'm going to ask you the question. What is your biggest takeaway today, and what are you implementing tomorrow based on the 75 minutes that we spent today? Anything?
Perfect. Let's open the floor to discussion, everyone. So a couple of responses in the chat. Communication is key. Truly know my target market.
Yeah, knowing your avatar is a good one. I love it.
Anyone else?
Hold on 1 second, Coco. Sending my startups update to my potential client and asking for feedback is great. However, I do not want to continuously interrupt him. Coco, are you just emailing him? Or are you calling him?
Email.
Don't worry about interrupting him. Email is no longer seen as an interruption. They'll reply when they want to reply. If you're calling him every 2 minutes, I will give you a new strategy.
All right. And at the same time, is there any other thing that could be put on board to you? For example, also, because I see another person asking a question about how to give reward to those type of people who give referrals. So is there any good ways, like in the early stage startup, that you cannot offer other ways? So, but from some strategy level, could there be any cooperation type of thing?
I love it. So it depends on what is it that you're selling. Okay, I can guarantee you have come second, because in the tech space, for example, there is a lot of affiliate selling or partnership program where you sort of build the channel, you let them know who like their product or who you pitch their product to, and then they will take over the lead from there when you submit a lead, and then they'll give you, you know, whatever, from $100 to like 20% of the deal. So in the tech space, that's pretty normal. In, I say, the service space, I can tell you for us, for example, we try not to give monetary gifts as a result. There's appreciation gifts though, but there's no monetary gift. But partially it's because we give a lot of referrals. So let's say like we come across a lot of companies, and we have cybersecurity company come to us all the time and say, hey, Agnes, can you make some refer people to us? I'm like, hey, you know what? People come to me. It's interesting. I've gotten to a point where people come to me and ask me like all sorts of referral. Like the other day, they're like, if you guys are on, some of you guys are on my LinkedIn, I asked, I'm like, I get asked, I'm a management consultant, okay? Strategy consultant. They're like, well, do you know where I can buy RRSP for my company? And I'm like, no, but I bet you someone on my LinkedIn knows. So I just put it on LinkedIn, and then a few people replied. So, but I, like, for me, referral is both ways. So I give them, but the key for me, going back to what I told you guys earlier around referral, is I have to stand for that brand. Like, I don't want to just give out referral for no reason and someone I don't even know or trust or whatever, because if I give my client a referral that is no good, I feel personally, I know my client don't think so, but I feel like I'm personally liable for the fact that I send them someone that's not good. So for me, my referral has to be someone I trust, someone that we've worked with, someone that clients have worked with that I've seen good work, someone that I know I can comfortably refer. And even when I refer three company of apple to apple, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's not your quality of product that dictate whether the working relationship with the referee works. It could be the fact that some people just don't like to work with each other. So I always give them 3 apple to apple comparison, and the client can pick which one they want. So for us, we don't we give a lot of referrals, but we don't take money back. Because no amount of, like, in my mind, no amount of money is worth my reputation to refer. But there are, if you're a B2C company though, there are some best practice around rewards though. So when someone if you're a B2C company, there's the idea of rewards around equal reward. So let's say if I Instacart is a good one. So let's say if I refer somebody to Instacart, I get $25, they get $25. That's actually a best practice. So if only I get $25, they realize that it's not going to work. If only the new person gets the $25, that's not going to work. So that's why the best practice around C2C is that mutual $25. That's trial and tested and a best practice. Let's see, there's a lot. Asking the right question, gym membership. We talked about listen more, talk less, agree. Appreciation ideas. Appreciation ideas actually works best if you know your client. So for example, we talk about lifetime value. I have a client that buys from us now ever since pre-COVID, actually, so quite a while. Every time I need him to buy something, he always buys something. He just had a baby. So he messaged me with his baby photo, and we sent him a baby basket. So I find it's not, like, if I know it's hard to replicate when you get bigger, but the size that you guys are, you should know what an appreciation gift would work for that client, because that appreciation gift sometimes it's not a lot of money. It actually shows how well you know them. Okay, Alina, I think we're almost there. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to open it to the attendees. If you have any last minute burning questions, now is your chance. I do see a couple of questions in the chat. Is it possible to know your ideal client profile and not know how to reach those beyond your immediate sphere of contacts?
So if you know your ideal customer profile, I'm going to make the assumption that you've done your market research. Your reaching them is a sales exercise. I assume it's a B2B world. If it's a B2C world, then it's a marketing exercise. So that's just lack of knowledge in you not knowing your marketing or your sales best practices. So talk to Alina. You can either find a coach in Whitespace that focuses on marketing or focuses on sales, or find a sales firm. As resource and book, I can definitely give you guys some idea around sales books that I like. I'll give you some, and I'll send it to Alina to send it to the rest of the team.
Perfect. That'll be great. I just want to make sure I've covered all the questions.
If it's a B2B, sorry, if it's B2B, then it's sales best practice that you don't know. Reach out to me. We have courses around that. That's government subsidized.
Perfect. So Hudson has a couple of questions. What would be the requirements for seniors living together and just helping each other and getting help with cleaning?
Catherine, I think you found yourself some partners. So guys, if you put your contact information in chat, you guys can get a hold of each other and see how you guys can collaborate.
Yep, perfect. And then there was one more question. Sorry, Agnes, I'm just like scrolling up to make sure I've asked all the questions.
But I was gonna say, guys, the fact that we have this many variety in the question, I feel like everyone took something with them, and thank you guys for paying attention today. I know it's late, I know it's after a long day, and I have a lot of you guys really engaged. I can't be more thankful for the group today.
I'm going to say that back to you, Agnes. I think this was so great. I love the fact that after every section, you had your own key takeaways, and you wrapped it up so well by asking the attendees here for their main key takeaways from the session. Thank you so much. As always, Agnes, I think whenever you do a session, it's so valuable. You bring in all your insights to it. So we really thank you. And to all the